Jill and I were just talking about traveling with kids. I don't have any kids yet. I'm on that track now. That's probably next in life. But I'm a big traveler. We travel all the time. I love seeing new places in the world and stuff. But that's gonna come to an abrupt slow down.
No matter how well Jill plans her travel trip, she will find a way to wreak havoc and chaos in the trip. Like, oh, how's the trip going? Oh, like the ferry we were on burned down and we had to move hotels because there was an outbreak of ticks. And like, I don't know. It's just the most random stuff that happens to you, and be like, oh yeah, both my kids got pneumonia. It was a great time. Yeah.
So your kids are how old now? 5 and 7?
5 and 7.
So you're starting to, you were just saying you're starting to get to that point where maybe you can, they
travel.
Yeah,
My
you can travel
without them.
True. Yeah. That's a
and
big.
take them places.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Yep.
You need to be able to do that. That's a recharge that you don't get. Even the other day, like just where you were talking about how, like, especially during COVID, like you and Eric, you're working from home. And there's just no time to yourself. You just have no time because the kids the kids you're up, you're feeding the kids, you're dressing them, you're taking them to the bus. Then you've got a window of time where you can do.
Oh, and taking them to the bus is great, actually.
That's
this is great. Before it was setting them up on their computers and then helping them through that. That was.
And then before that, they didn't take the bus. You would walk them like kilometers to get to school or drive.
Yeah, and then so just every little morsel of time that you have where you can breathe a little bit. So it's important, I think, for you to be able to get away.
But she got a pool this year. She's like, oh, poor me. I got to be home. I got to work from home in my pool.
Wow.
Oh, that sucks.
It is beautiful.
Yes, it is. It's very nice.
We swam in it yesterday.
Very nice. Oh, my God. What is
October
it? October 20th?
October 20th. We were all in the pool.
I went, opened the back door. It was probably yesterday, the day before. And Nora goes, Daddy, what's all that stuff coming out of the pool? It was steam. And I said, that's money, honey. That's just money pouring out of the pool because we're not even using it that much, and it's just steaming in the morning. I'm like, yeah, that's just my bills going up and up and up. Son of a...
It's like when I hear fireworks all around the city on all these long weekends. People will be like, "What's that?" And I'll be like, "Oh, that's just the sound. It's just the sound of people's paychecks blowing up in the air."
$40, $60,
yeah,
4 hours of work. Yeah. Yeah, these fireworks are ridiculously expensive. You get like the most half-assed display for
it's terrible.
$400.
I know,
and they're getting wimpier than they used to be.
I don't get why people do it.
Even a Roman candle now, it's just like,
pew. I know, I don't get it.
And we're just like, even the kids are like it's not fun anymore.
Back to travel though. You were like talking about wanting to go to like Hawaii.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
I don't know if we can make it that
A volcano
far.
will erupt while she's there.
Yeah, literally the last trip that big trip Jill went on was to Mexico, and like her whole family this was
incredibly ill.
Yeah, it could have been COVID.
I don't even think you got more than a half a day of enjoyment out of that trip.
No. My
came
son
back.
was like
they thought your kids
sick on
had
the way.
pneumonia, and you had pneumonia, and it could have been COVID easily, but this was like just at the cusp of that, right?
Yeah.
Because it was
we
the winter
joke
of 2019.
Patient zero.
Yeah, that's true. We do. You brought it back from Mexico.
The whole world shut down like a week after she got back.
Yeah.
It's like Jill comes back, we're all sick, and then all of a sudden this virus is everywhere.
Oh, travel's opening up again. The border now.
Border.
We can go across on. I think it's middle of November sometime.
November 8th.
Well, that's what it's unofficially said on a few sites, but I don't know if that's the true date yet. But yeah, it's still prohibitive.
Going to the Wings Edmonton game in November, and
so you got to get testing to come back.
Yeah, so we got to figure out the logistics. It sounds like if you get tested like 2 days before, you can use that test to come back, which just doesn't make
I
any
don't
sense.
understand that.
I don't want to get too into it because it's all
no, but it's something we're talking about, especially here in Windsor, because we're missing such a big part of why living in Windsor and area is so great. It's Detroit, and I think Detroit gets a really bad rap in the rest of the world, a lot of the time people look at it and they're like, oh, Detroit. But like, if you live here and you go to Detroit and you have that amenity that you get from it. Like, I love Detroit. I love Detroit. So we've been really missing it for the last couple of years. And it's a big thing for us to start to be thinking we're going to be getting it back. But unfortunately, Canada's policies right now are making it still quite prohibitive. Even when they open that border, the States does not require us to have, or it does not require fully vaccinated people to have a test to go in, which is great. We can cross the border. But then Canada requires us to have a PCR test to come back. For now. But they said they have no plans of changing that right now. So that's $100 to $200 a person, right? And if you're only going over for the day, the workaround is to get a test in the 3 days before you go in Canada. But what does that prove?
Yeah.
Like, so you're proving that you don't have COVID before you go to the States, and then you use that same test to come back into Canada. It makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
Like, the whole thing has been just kind of really
and to also touch on
off the cuff.
You mentioned like how you miss Detroit, Michigan in general. Michigan in general is fantastic. There's so much there, and just access into the States in general to get anywhere around. And it's just a shame. Now, it's one thing, and we were talking about this earlier. It's one thing if you're going away for a week. And while you're away, you get the test a few days before you come back and you're fine. But if you want to just go over for a hockey game, the logistics, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt Detroit. It's going to hurt the economy just not being able to get people back and forth. And it already has, obviously. But people aren't going to go back still the same way that they would have had they just opened the borders up and not required these tests. Because of these tests, I know lots of people that, even though it's open, aren't going to go.
And that's hurting the cross-border business too, right? Because a lot of businesses rely on the Canadians and the Americans crossing the border and tourism dollars.
My dad lives over there.
Well,
I haven't
your dad
been to
lives
his
over
house
there.
in
That's
2 years.
huge.
2 years.
So
oh my God.
Your husband works in the States.
Yes.
He travels over there, a couple days a week?
One.
Okay. So what if you work there? Do you have to be required a PCR test to come back?
No, because you're essential. You're deemed essential.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, not knocking people that work there, but I mean, if you work there and you're going and socializing with people and you're essential and you're coming back, or you're going over there and socializing for recreational reasons, you're still going over there.
Yeah.
And picking and choosing who has to take tests is just getting out of hand.
It's just not, there's no coordination.
Really
there's no real coordinated effort happening. The two countries are just seemingly making these decisions unilaterally first, and then the other country is having to respond in some way. That's what's happening, right?
I think when we look back on all of this, there's going to be things that were like, okay, that made sense that we did this or that, but I think there's going to be a lot where we're like, well, that was silly, and generations
100%.
later are going to be like, well, that was unnecessary.
I think we're living with this thing now, probably for the rest of our lives.
The virus.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah.
It's going to become endemic eventually.
We're
it's
all
going to
get
turn into another seasonal sickness that, and we're doing what we can to try to curb it. And, I mean, there's, not to get too much into it, but like Saskatchewan, where I'm from and like where my parents live, their hospitals are completely rammed full. Their ICUs are completely overwhelmed. They're starting to triage and send patients from Saskatchewan to Ontario.
Because of COVID?
Because of COVID, because all the ICU beds are taken up with COVID patients. And
that's right now still?
Right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Ontario just got its first Saskatchewan patient the other day.
That?
Because they have the lowest vaccination rate in the country, and they imposed the least restrictions, and they tried to go back to normal
Too soon.
life way too early. Them and Alberta both did the same thing. I mean, the writing's on the wall. I don't care, one way or another. Everyone's got a different opinion. I get it, but like, there's just simple scientific evidence here of what's happening, and the reason that we impose these restrictions, and the reason that we wear masks, and the reason that we have these vaccinations is so that our hospital systems don't get overwhelmed. Because think about it this way: if you have a heart attack in Saskatchewan, or if you're a cancer patient that needs life-saving surgery, and needs to be in an ICU bed, and they're all full, that's when the triage starts. Triage meaning who gets the care?
Mm-hmm.
Who's being cared for now? Is it the person that has a heart attack, or is it a person who,
It's on a ventilator.
or is it there because of COVID and they're unvaccinated and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a triage that's going to have to start happening, and these are the things that we're trying to avoid. And I think in Ontario we forget a lot of the time that some of the harsher restrictions and the harsher things that we've dealt with here in Ontario have kept us from getting to the point where our hospital system is overwhelmed and we don't have to worry about those things happening, because we did those things to keep them from happening, because it's the writing's on the wall. I talk to my parents a few times a week, and they tell me what's going on in Saskatchewan, and now they're sending people across the country because they don't have anywhere else to take care of them. That's scary.
And we still have a whole flu season.
Yes, we're going into the worst season for sickness and things
from now to March.
Yeah, so this is important. These are important things. If we were just doing nothing,
Mm-hmm.
or we don't have the capacity, the hospital capacity for this. So it's all well and good if you're a healthy person and you're sitting at home, but what happens when something happens to you? What if you have a heart attack? What if you need care? What if someone in your family needs care and all those beds are full and they just say, sorry? What happens? It's happening right now. People are dying because of it, and it's scary. That's the scary part. But I mean, we're doing what we can. This is the state that we're in. It's going to be something we have to live with forever, I think.
So I'm going to touch on that a little bit and tangent off at the same time.